You're listening to the Breezy Moms podcast on Digital Stream Radio.
I talk a lot, but sometimes I'm not saying the right things at the right time in the right way. Everyone thinks they're a great communicator, but am I? Stick around. Hey everyone, you're listening to the Breezy Moms podcast, a weekly show that chronicles the adventures of motherhood. I'm Candace. Now let's start the show. Hey.
Hey, hey, hey.
How are you?
I am wonderful. Welcome back, people.
Hi.
It's Thursday.
I'm going to try to remember tonight to look in this direction.
Yeah, I know.
It's the direction of the camera. Hey, Facebook guys.
Yeah, we live stream live on Facebook. And of course, once we're done with the podcast, you can actually get it on Google Play Music, Stitcher Radio, Spotify. I always forget Spotify, but of course, Apple Podcasts and all the great places where you can actually access podcasting because we're amazing and we're good and she's fabulous and you need to listen to her.
Hey.
And of course, you can listen to the live stream audio on digitalstreamradio.com/live stream. And it is Thursday and we're ready for the Breezy Moms podcast.
I love it. I rely on Tommy to get all of that out because I haven't even started drinking yet, but I feel like I'm already juicy.
So let's talk about your sweater. So you're in here in a Columbia sweater and it is getting chilly.
It is.
A little sooner than
I'm pretty sure I have on two sweaters.
Oh my God. So Candace,
I have on two sweaters.
You're always run cold anyway. Like when you're here, even in the summer, it could be 95 outside. If my AC is on, she's always saying it's cold.
Yeah, well, because you run the AC on like Antarctica.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, like, that's legit. That anybody would be cold.
We got to keep you awake.
I know. No. That is the absolute opposite.
Really? That puts you to bed?
The cold, when my body is cold, I shut down. It's like functions start to shut down and I get smaller and smaller and my head starts to tilt. And literally start to fall asleep.
You've never said this to me. See? Communication.
See?
So now I know, and knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe.
Yeah, because I think in general, people think when you get warmer, then you get cozy. But actually, if you think about it, I hate to say that because then people say that and they're like, if you think about it, like, bitch, I was thinking about it. It's just like your information doesn't make it right. But if you think about it, you might find that you actually sleep better at night when it's a little bit cooler. So sometimes you might open the window to get a little breeze, or I know I turn down the heat at nighttime because even though I want to be warm underneath the under the blanket, you still want that cool air sort of like breathing. You know what I mean? When it's hot, when you've got that furnace heat, that forced air heat, and the air is too hot, you can't sleep. It's hard. I can't
deal. And my mother, like when my mother comes to visit, she is always cold. It could be 95 outside and like super humid. And she will always say, no, this is cold. You haven't had heat until you're like either in Puerto Rico or in Florida, which true. There is some truth to it. But if it's 95 in Florida, it's 95 in Connecticut, and we have the same level of humidity, it's the same amount of heat. But mentally for her, it's cold. And so then when I turn on my air conditioner, she'll go and sneak and turn it up. And then I go and I turn it down from my phone. And then she's like, I keep forgetting that you can do that. Like, you can see what I can do. That's so
funny. I love, it's kind of like when you decide that you like a car and then you start to see that car everywhere. Mm-hmm. That's like a thing. It's like a sciencey thing. Anyway, we're talking about communication, but everything we're talking about is making me think more about communication because I remember Amanda said to me, when you want to change the temperature of your air conditioner, what does up mean? If you turn it up, does that mean that you're making it colder? Or that you're making the number higher. You know what I mean? So like some basic things that I think we individually think, oh, it's simple, it's common sense. The communication has to be spot on, or else if she thinks she's turning it up, but that means it's getting warmer, and you think, oh, great, turn it up because it's going to be colder. You know what I mean?
Oh, I can guarantee you she knows exactly what she's doing.
Well, she knows what she's doing.
Oh, yeah. She goes like, I just turned this thing, right? This little dial, because I have the Nest thermostat. Mm-hmm. And so you just, turn the dial and it goes up and down. And, she knows exactly what she's doing. She just tries to play dumb. Like, like she'll say things like, it's cold in here. And I'm like, Ma, you just turned the heat up. Like you literally turned the temperature up like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I saw it. I got a communication on my phone when you did it. And she goes like,
Yeah, she feels. I bet she feels some kind of way being in this house where you can't do anything without some alert going off on your phone. There's no in Tommy's house. There's no like checking in the cabinets or like even just now. I went upstairs in the fridge and I was like, I bet he knows I opened the fridge door. I might as well.
It made
tell
a
him.
noise, and I said, "Can you grab me a beer while you're there?"
I love it.
No, well, my refrigerator is a smart one. It's got like a big screen on it. And you can play music and order shopping and doing all that stuff from it.
Seeing it without opening the door.
Yeah, like you can see inside. It's pretty cool. But where was I going with this? The refrigerator. You can't do anything. So you can't do anything without me knowing. And Mom says to me one time when she was here, she goes like, "You know what I love the most? That I don't have to worry about losing keys. All I have to do is just text you and you can either lock the door or unlock it."
That's a good point.
And I'm like, yeah, I mean, but what if we have a power outage?
That's true. Then you're locked in.
So, well, no, you're not locked in because you can manually unlock it. But for her, she's just like, well, do you have keys? And I'm like, yeah, of course. And I'll tell you where they're at
when you need them. Oh my God.
But she's a trip. She is.
Oh my gosh.
She's an absolute trip.
I like her. And her, what did she make? Pernil the last time I was here.
Pernil,
and
yes.
some arroz.
Arroz con
I don't know.
Habichuelas?
Probably. Like red beans?
Yeah, she doesn't like gandules for whatever reason.
Nope, it was delicious. I appreciate it.
But that woman can cook. So speaking of communication, she called me.
Oh.
And she has communicated that she has an interest in coming back up northeast. And I'm like, are you nuts?
Oh, like long term?
Like to live, because she's so over Florida at this point. And
Aren't we all over Florida at this point? Sorry.
Well,
Go ahead.
And I was like, Mother, are you nuts? You're making this decision to come back north.
In the winter.
In the middle of the winter. And you're just going to be miserable. And she goes, yeah, but it's just, I can't take this. I can't take this.
So
I'm
she's
lonely,
coming,
blah, blah, blah.
She'll come here?
I don't think I'm going to have a choice with that one. And then with her comes obviously my brother who lives with her, and then of course her husband. So I'm just like, all right, I'm trying to have a game plan. Like, all right, do I have enough money for a security deposit? Do I have money for at least first month's rent? Because this is going to be an issue.
Yeah.
I come home and I just want to be silent. Like sometimes I don't even play music at all.
That's weird.
It is. And I just love the silence of just being.
And one person is one thing, but like a whole family is a whole nother thing.
And then of course, there's the resources and things, the hot water and the electricity and things. And so yeah, it's
gonna put a damper on all your fancy projects you've got going on.
Oh, honey, listen, I'm like, if you're here, you're gonna be on your knees too. Let's go. But yeah.
Well, let's keep an eye on it and let me know how it's going.
We'll see how that works.
How that works out. So this is actually a timely conversation to talk about communication, because you want to make sure that you get everything out there before they end up here and you weren't prepared for it. But let's talk about the boys first.
All right. So, Candace, I have a question for you. It's been one that we haven't asked in about 4 weeks. How are your amazing, beautiful boys?
Oh, the boys are good. They're always good. So I don't know if we've actually, I feel like I skipped over the fact that they started school. Maybe I mentioned it very briefly. But anyway, they're in school. Lincoln loves it. His biggest thing, maybe I did talk about this. His biggest thing is that he gets to eat in the cafeteria. Did I tell you that?
No.
He came home the first day of school and he was like, Mom, guess what? We get to eat in the cafeteria. And I was like, you want to eat in the cafeteria? It's such a big deal because in preschool, he's in the same building, but in pre-K, you eat in your classroom.
Yeah.
They bring the lunch to you. And so I forget the little things that you see other people doing, like the bigger kids doing. He's like, we get to go to the cafeteria. And
that's a big thing.
It's a big thing. And the other thing he was super excited about, homework. Mom, I have homework now.
Oh, we have to do homework very quickly.
Yeah, I know.
You're going to get over that very quickly, sweet child.
When it gets in the way of like watching a show or getting to go outside or whatever, he's going to be over it. But for now, he's super into it, and he's super into their learning some sight words, and we're practicing reading and stuff. So he's really, really into it, and I'm into it with him, and I'm trying so hard. Leading into this conversation about communication, I'm trying so hard to give him the grace that he deserves at 5 years old, like in learning how to read. You know what I mean? And reminding myself that no matter how many times I say something, he's still just learning it, and it's only like the first 20 times that he's heard it,
and he's still only 5.
And he's still only 5, you know,
even though he projects he's
8 or however big he looks, he's still only 5. And so like today he was practicing some words, and the word was like can, and so he goes cat, cat. And I was like, but where's the T? I don't see a T. Do you see a T? And I felt myself like bubbling up. And I had just seen something on Facebook earlier today that said to be careful the way that you like talk to your kids, because the way you talk to them becomes their inner voice. And I don't want his inner voice of me to be, where's the T? There's no T. Stop saying T. There's no T. Well, I already told you. Like, I don't want that to be. Yeah. I don't want that to be what he's hearing, even though that's how I feel. That's how I feel, and I feel like that's how my mom did me when I was little, and how everybody's mom did them, or parents, or whatever. And so, in trying to break that mold and make it so that he continues to be interested in this and like school and like learning, I'm like under the table pinching myself. Relax, Candace, relax. It's only Thursday, mm-hmm. right? We've only been doing this for a couple of days. It's only the first week of school. It's like his second week of school. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. So I say all of that to say that the process of parenting, right? Learning how to be a parent, and then in some cases, learning how to be the kind of parent you think you might have wanted, right? Mm-hmm. Or you think maybe would be better in some ways.
It's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing.
I read something on Facebook,
which is where I get all my information.
Hey, listen, Facebook is a trove of information, sometimes good, sometimes bad, sometimes just irrelevant. Mm-hmm. But I read something on Facebook that made sense to me, that the people born today are living in a different generation and growing up in a different generation with different expectations than you did, and that your parents did, and their parents before them. And what I took from that message was that how we learned to be a parent then, the expectations of society then, are nowhere near what they are today. Mm-hmm. And so how you see yourself as a parent may be driven by the changes that you would have wanted to see from your parents, which is what you just finished saying. And it makes sense, because in 2 generations from now, we're not going to be anywhere near where we are today.
Right.
How we parent, and how kids are treated, and how kids are seen, and how parents are seen, and the things that you can do. Mm-hmm. Like every generation as we go forward, we start to see less and less that parents have a right to do.
That statement comes from experience, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I know you're thinking about, can't spank your kids, can't yell at your kids, can't mm-hmm. tell them what to do. Like, it feels like things we're losing. It feels like things are losing, but it's probably things that we're gaining. I don't know. It's hard.
You gain on the other end of that,
You gain
right?
on the other end of it. But I tell you, in the moment, I was talking to a friend about this. In the moment, trying to talk through and get a kid to like think about there was a thing I saw that said, instead of telling a kid that what they're doing, like, oh, you shouldn't jump on that, or you shouldn't take that, you shouldn't carry that chair over your head towards the stairs, right? Like, we see that it's a problem and we see the danger ahead of time. But this article was suggesting that you ask your child, so what's your plan? What's your plan here? And I was like, that sounds great in theory, but like in the moment,
what a plan is?
I mean, they generally do. I mean, my 5-year-old knows what a plan is. He knows what a prototype is, right? Yeah. Like, they have some sense of idea, but I think the point is to try and stop with that initial negative talk and phrase it like a question. And I suppose in the moment, because you've stopped them and asked them a question, it sort of mitigates the immediate danger.
Yeah.
But still, if you turn around and your kid's got a red marker on your like freshly painted wall, I'm going to find it very difficult to say, hey, what's your plan?
So I have a brush and some paint in a bucket over there.
I have paper.
Do you want to plan on repainting my wall? I mean, how do you do that?
So it's practice. I think it takes practice, and the more you practice that kind of communication style with your kid, the more maybe your kid will learn to think through what their plan is before they do something. I mean, they're still going to be kids. Your kid's still going to write on the wall. Like it's still going to happen. But I think you can save yourself a few ulcers if you stop screaming all the time.
Hey, listen.
Which it's hard to do.
My mom is 62 years old. And anytime she gives me a look, I know exactly what the plan is. Don't piss her the fuck off. That's the plan. Obviously,
even my daycare kids know that look.
Oh, don't do that.
Because with the daycare kids, like I feel I can't. You don't just yell at them the way you yell at your kids, even though I'm trying to be a great parent. And so the thing I can catch myself doing, like I can shut my mouth really fast, but I look over and I'm just like, are you really going to hit that kid with a truck? Like, is that what's going to happen? But you have to say it with your eyes. Like you say it with your eyes, and the kid always looks at me and turns away.
No. We're
it's
not
like,
gonna do that
listen,
today.
I'm just trying to save everybody a problem here. But yeah, so anyway, that was a long story to say that I am working through each stage that my kids are going through is a new stage for me. This whole school situation is just kindergarten. I don't know what it's going to look like in the 3rd grade and the 6th grade and high school. Like, I don't know how I'm going to manage that. But for now, he's excited about homework, and I'm going to try not to make him sad about learning how to read. Like, that's my goal.
All I can say is wait until they come home with that Common Core math. You're going to be like, what?
Screw Common Core. I saw that lattice, that like math lattice shit. I don't want anything to do with it. And so But
you're going to have to.
Listen.
That's what they're going towards.
Listen, my plan is to show them the right answer. If you can make that lattice shit look like how we carry and do remainders, that's fine. I'm just letting you know what the answer is.
Listen.
You could spend the next 20 minutes building a bridge if that's what you want to do.
There was a parent that actually was so frustrated with Common Core math that he sent in his tuition check in Common Core math, written out in Common Core on the check, and the bank did not accept it. And then he looked at the teacher and said, you see, this is useless.
This is useless. That's hilarious.
You can't show them how to spell it out. Kids don't know how to write cursive today. And how are you going to write out a check in Common Core math? So I thought that was hysterical.
Yeah, it's like if it's working, like, let's just leave it alone. But I'm sure that people would say that about other stuff that doesn't make sense.
And don't get me wrong, like I've watched videos comparing Common Core math, and there's one really funny one that compares the math, like the teacher's literally doing the problem on a board side by side, timing herself and says, this is Common Core math, this is math as we knew it. And here's how much quicker you can get to this answer instead of making them run around like circus poodles on fire, jumping through hoops. And it just kills me because it's just like I could have gotten there like a whole
20 minutes
ago, and you're still
because there's nothing wrong with a remainder and carrying numbers. Like that's how you do it.
Just think about how much more time you're going to need on a test. Right? A normal test would take you what, like an hour if you're in middle school. I would say maybe 2 hours if you're in high school. You could have a 3-hour test if you're taking like your SATs and you're going into college. With Common Core math, it'll probably take a middle schooler like 3 hours to be able to get just through the math part.
Throw it away. I don't want anything to do with it.
Give them something new.
So that's Lincoln. Emery is doing great. Emery's doing great, but he doesn't like school. And I knew that it would be a transition for him because he doesn't know that he was in daycare. He was at home. And so the first day of school he was all excited to put on his uniform and book bag and all that stuff. But when we turned around and said, okay, bye, he was like, wait, what? I thought this was a field trip. No, dude, you're on your own now. And he's not having it. But
Did
every
he cry?
day, yeah, he cried.
Did you cry?
I did. I got it. I got into a fight with James because I was like, I was stalling by asking a bunch of questions, and he's like, "We have to go. They have to do their job." And I was like, "But," he was like, "No, you don't have to." And I was like, "Listen, part of her job is to make me feel like I can leave my kid here, like to assuage my fears of leaving my kid here, even though I'm a childcare provider and I understand and I go through this with my own clients, trying to get them to relax. It's going to be fine. The kids are going to be here. They'll be here when you get back. It's still hard in the moment." And so I don't know that I actually really cried, but my eyes did well up and we did have to run away. And I'm pretty sure that we were in the office filling out some paperwork, and while James was doing something, I went to go and check, like I was going to look through the window, like stealth like, but I was going to go look through the window, and the hallway doors were closed. And I remembered hearing the principal say, "Shut the doors. It's okay. Just shut the doors." And I think Emery was trying to get out of the class. And so they closed the like fire doors at the end of the hallway so that he wouldn't end up in the main part of the school. So the first day was difficult, but these last few days have been way better. I hear he cries. I don't do drop off in the morning, but I hear it's a little bit tough. But he's fine. And I gave him a picture of us, of me and James. And so he has that, it's in his thing. And sometimes I go to pick him up and he's holding it. Other times he's like fine, but he's really happy to see us. So I think each day, one day at a time, he's getting better.
It'll get easier. It'll
get easier. But there was a day he was sick and I was like, "Oh, do you want to go to school?" He was like, "No." It's just like didn't faze him at all. Meanwhile, Lincoln wants to go to school every day because you want to go see your friends. You want to do all that thing.
Yeah.
So we're getting there one day at a time. It's going to be okay.
That's all you can do.
And then James is doing really well. He's back at work, back in the grind.
Yeah,
and
after a long vacation.
A nice long vacation. And it's going okay. I think the thing he's probably working on the most is trying to get back to the gym. And we're just not, we as a unit, I'm just not really back yet, settled. So most days I'm like, "Dude, you have to come home." Like I can't.
She's still on a cross somewhere.
You can't stay out till 8:00 at night. I just can't. I can't handle it. Please come home. So we'll all get back eventually.
Yeah,
into the rhythm. I think the longer you are away, the longer you need to get back into it.
I mean, it usually takes a whole week just to recover from a 1-week vacation. I can only imagine what it's like to be gone almost for a whole month.
Yep. So we'll get there. But that brings us to communication, right? Because sometimes it's like 4:58 and he texts me to say, "Hey, is everything okay?" And I'm, "No." He was like, "I was just about to walk into the gym." I was like, "You can't." Or I swear that I told him a couple times about a dentist appointment for the boys yesterday. And yesterday,
about what?
A dentist appointment for the boys that he was supposed to take them to because I had a meeting to go to. And yesterday when he got home and I said, "Oh, so you're going to take them? Do you know where the dentist's office is?" And he was like, "What?" Like had no idea. But I'm really certain in my head that we've talked about it a couple of times, but now I'm not really sure. Like maybe I thought that I said it out loud, but it didn't actually. It's on the calendar, but maybe I didn't really invite. I don't know.
Do you guys have like a physical calendar where you write everything down, or do you share like a Google?
We share a digital calendar. We share a Google calendar. And sometimes, to be fair, sometimes when I want to be very certain that he is on, like he gets it, I'll actually invite, like send his email like an invitation, but it's a shared calendar. So if I put it on there, it should show up. But if I don't invite him, then it doesn't, you don't get that extra pop-up email invitation.
Yeah, to say, "Hey, look at this calendar invite."
Exactly. It's just on, it's like sort of passively on there and he would have to go and look. So it's one of those things where I think you have to be very aware of not only what you intend to say, but somehow figure out how the people hear the things that you're saying, like what their listening style is or what their like reception style is. Do I need to say out loud XYZ? Can I send you an email? Will you see the email? Do I need to write you a note? Like what is the...
I think that, fine, put it on the calendar, But I think that something like that is one of these moments. Hey, honey.
Right, in the face.
On so-and-so day, I need you to take the boys to the dentist because I have a meeting.
Yeah.
Okay? But I'm going to put it on a calendar. You might want to set a reminder for yourself.
Right. But I think it goes both ways, because sometimes he puts things on the calendar that he's got, like maybe a happy hour after work on some day, and that's a day that I want to fall apart. And he's like, but this has been on the calendar for weeks. You know what I mean? Like,
as long as it's not a Thursday, we're good.
Right, as long as it's not a Thursday. But yeah, I think what as I was thinking about this, for me, if I'm doing a little bit of self-reflection here in the moment, I think that sometimes I don't say things fully because of a couple reasons. One, you want to leave a little bit of wiggle room, you know? Like, I feel like sometimes people want to make plans with someone. Someone invites you to something. You're like, oh, I'll see if I can make it, right? Where you know that you have something else, so you can't, or you know you don't want to, so you don't. You know what I mean?
But in your case, too, I mean, in the defense of both of you, you also have children that, while you're trying to have those moments and where full communication is required, you don't have the
dedicated quiet time.
Dedicated quiet time to be able to have that type of conversation.
But they're 5 and 3, so we've had a few years to try and figure out how to find that time.
Yeah,
and so and that is like the cold hard truth, right? Like, we can't blame the kids forever, but I think more,
yeah, you can for the rest of your life.
I will blame. It'll be because I have kids that I was late.
And it's not so much blaming them, right? Because it's not their fault. It's using their inability to understand that you need to have an important conversation to your advantage. That's what I consider it.
That sounds like word magic. No, but I'm trying to be honest, because I feel like it can't just be me, right? It can't just be that I'm terrible at communicating. I think that also part of why I maybe don't say things sort of definitively is, one, you might not want to hurt someone's feelings if they really wanted you to do something and you really know that you can't, or you want to leave some wiggle room in case. I remember
something
a friend of
opens
mine.
Up.
I remember a friend of mine said she makes 3 or 4 plans for the same day, and then does what she feels better in the moment. Or people always pull out on you, like people always cancel on you, and so then you get stuck with nothing to do if you don't have any backups. And I remember thinking, that's too much work. I can't manage all of that.
Like, can you imagine?
I
I have 4 prospective things that I can do
on Friday, yes, and 2 of them will probably back out, and then one of them I probably didn't really want to go to anyway.
And then what happens when none of them back out?
Exactly, then you get screwed.
Oh, but I thought you weren't coming, so I made plans with someone else. But you can join us, and then on next thing you know, you've got like 4 different things going on in the same day.
It's a lot. It's really a lot, and so I don't know. I don't know how to fix it. Other than, I don't have an other than. I don't know how to fix it. I just know that often I'm in this position where it's almost like you feel backed up against a wall, and you don't want to say what you think you should say. And so you end up saying what you think you should say, and that's probably not right either.
Are we talking about making plans with friends, or trying to make commitments and communicating with your partner?
I mean, it's all in the same. I think.
Well,
I don't think they're all equally important, or they're not, because your partner should be a level above your friends in that sense. But I think in general, it's the baseline of figuring out how you can be firm in communicating, especially in this case, commitments, because I mean, if I'm honest about it, it would probably help me plan better. It would probably help me think through things a little bit better if you make firm decisions.
Yeah.
James always says to me, like, sometimes quick decisions are the best ones, or he'll say decisions are sexy. Like, just decide whatever. He'll also say to me, you can't make a wrong decision. Whatever your decision is, it's your decision. It's not wrong, but you have to make it and stick to it. And then next time, maybe if you don't like it, then next time you make a different decision. But you can't, I think of it as like hovering over 2 or 3 different options. hurts everybody in the end,
Gee
including
golly,
you.
but I think he's right, though.
I hate that he's always right. He's always fucking right.
Well, I mean, I have to say this. I see your husband as someone of sound mind and good thought process. Like, he thinks things out, and he actually does it very quickly. It's very impressive. And
And
so
I do, and I'm like,
don't get that head really big now, because you still got to wear those beanie caps. You know, the cold weather's coming. No, but what I will say this about you, though, like, you might be a little scattered as far as your decision making, but when it comes to talking and communicating and letting people know how you feel, I think you do really good at that.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Because, you know, we sit here week after week and we have a dialogue every day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not every day, but
feels like every day.
Feels like it. But in my experience, watching you communicate and speak and organize thoughts for 70 episodes. This is episode 70. It's impressive to see how you juggle parenthood, mommyhood, mehood, you know, just the stories and how you sort of kind of put everything into words. And then your version of communicating is to help others and to put it out there and see how you can help others.
So I'm like a storyteller, but not a decision maker. Like, it's hard. It's easy. Like, I hear what you're saying, and I feel confident in saying, like, I can tell a good story.
Yeah.
But that's in an everyday situation, like, as adults, as parents, as business owners, like, we have to be able to say what we, like, earlier we were talking, I had someone do some work for me. What is it called? Like, a cleanup. When we came back, we'd been gone for 3 weeks. The yard was a mess. Grass, shrub, like, just weeds everywhere. And I just didn't want to do it. So I hired a lady to do it. And we talked. I thought I was able to clearly discuss and negotiate how much I was willing to pay for it. What I didn't realize that I probably needed a little more clarity around was, what did it include? And at the end, I wasn't super happy with the work that she did, but it's likely that in our negotiation, for every dollar that I took off, she took off some like task that she would have done. Maybe. I haven't had her do other work for me, so I don't know. So in the end, I was like, I just paid you all this money to do this, but I'm dragging the paper bags from the backyard to the front yard, or like, this paper bag broke, and so you left it in the backyard, and now I have to figure out how to stuff it into a new paper bag. You know, like, yeah, like, so she did a lot of the she did the work, but then I had to do a lot of the cleanup of the work. You know what I mean? And I was ready. I was like ready to write a review and like be mad about it and say, like, hey, I thought that all of these things came included. And James suggested to me, he was like, if you're not happy, then just don't hire her again. And we talked a little bit about, like, is that the right thing to do? Or should you, like, what I thought was, I should have this conversation with you so that you know that I'm not happy. And either you're going to fix it and then I can hire you again, or you're not going to fix it and then I don't hire you again. Yeah. And he's like, what is the point of all of that? Just like, hire somebody else.
I mean, there is some logic in a sense, right? Because there's so many people that are willing to do the job. But one of the things that we do best is not communicate to someone when they're doing something wrong, right? And so because we have so many options, it's quick to say, well, screw that. I'm going with this guy and I'm going to see what you can give me. And then we keep bouncing back. But if you find someone that you have a really good relationship with, or someone that you have a really good rapport with, or someone that you have to share with in your community that's doing that work for you, and you have that frank conversation for them, what you're doing is you're giving them a frank and honest opportunity to be able to fix what you're not happy about.
And to be honest, it's a bunch of us in the group that are using this person, and I think we all have the same complaint, but nobody is willing to say anything. And I think to the person.
That's a learning opportunity for you, right? Because you learn how to communicate to someone before you go and ruin their livelihood for the rest of their life, and say, hey, listen, this is what you did, this is what you didn't do, and this is what I thought that you should have done. Does this come included? Can we have a conversation as to what it would cost for me to make sure that when you come here, all of this gets
Right.
taken care of.
Right.
And what it does is it also gives the business owner an opportunity to make up for their shortcomings. And then if you're
and
in a
I
group,
would have wanted that. And as you say it, like when you positioned it that way earlier, I'm like, well, I guess I would want that too in my line of work. If something was wrong, you'd want somebody to come and tell you, or something they didn't like, you'd want them to tell you instead of like not ever coming back or going and shit talking you to other people. You know, like there is definitely benefit for everybody,
of course,
to have those kind of frank conversations. But difficult conversations are difficult.
Yeah.
They're called difficult conversations for a reason. And when you look like me, a difficult conversation becomes like a bitchy conversation. You know, like
it could turn into something that it's not.
And even when it's not, it's like the way that it's received. Like I'm not allowed to be rightfully like upset about something or disappointed in something, because it will,
or not satisfied,
or unsatisfied, right? It often comes across as something else that I intend. It's like I said the same words you said. How come it's reasonable when you say it and unreasonable when I say it? So I think that there's this level of fear that I have, or that I have, and that I know lots of other women of color have, where you're like, I have a legitimate complaint, but if I say something, you're not going to hear it. You're just going to perceive it the way, you know, and you're just going to ignore.
And that's fine, but that's on them. But
reality.
You made every point, you know, like how people perceive things. I mean, I suppose that you could, you know, try to figure out how you can say things without seeming like you're angry or like your disappointment is really driving the way you're going to communicate this to them, right? Like you can do a self-check. But in the end, and at the end of the day, what you need to realize is that you're not happy. And someone needs to know that. They do. I'm unsatisfied with your service. You need to know this. I'm letting you know. Whatever happens next, the ball's in your court.
Right.
Right?
Okay, so let's play devil's advocate, because I like that. But on the flip side, I've seen, like I literally just saw this the other day that said, like, not everything needs to be said. Not everything needs to be said. Sometimes you should just hold your tongue. And
if you were getting it for free, that's one thing.
Okay, if you're getting it for free, but
when you're paying for it.
We're talking about a service here, but we're talking about communication in general, right? And this thing about not having to say everything sort of hit me on lots of different levels. It was relevant to this service experience that I had, but it's also super relevant in relationships, right? Like, are you going to be mad, or are you going to vocalize every little thing, every single thing that you think you're mad about? Is that helpful to anybody? Are you, like, is it fair? Can it possibly be that you're always right and this person is always wrong? Like, how do you, in a world where on one hand, speaking up and giving feedback and this whole like, I used to work at a place where like feedback is a gift. Feedback is a gift. And I was like, I don't want a fucking gift. Keep your feedback, right? In this world where feedback is a gift, like, is it excessive? Is it sometimes not a gift? Should you shut your mouth? Like, how can you be a good communicator and also shut your mouth every once in a while?
I mean, yeah, you can pick your battles, but just remember this one thing. In a world that we live in today where depression and anger is rampant, by internalizing what you want it to vocalize, right? What you need it to say, are you putting yourself
at risk,
in an emotional state of risk, right? Like not saying it. Can you deal?
Give
can
yourself
you live
an ulcer
with not saying it, right?
My friend said that's why women live longer. So get it off of our chest. And men are internalizing everything. They end up with a stroke later. So see, you should have said what was wrong. Should have said what was on your mind.
I think too that the fear of not saying everything too comes from the fear of being perceived as you're always angry.
Right.
And I think that if you make it a point to constantly have open communication and talk about everything. Hey, this happened today. Can we talk about this and see, how we can figure something out? But if you don't say it, it's probably even worse because you're literally internalizing that. And that's going to manifest itself in other areas, your children, your friends,
your
your family, your husband.
James said, I didn't do it. I was like, listen.
You didn't do it, but, you know, this poor service is going to piss me off.
Right.
Now I'm all, like, twisted for the rest of the day because that's all I can think about. And then while I'm in my thought, my little one is going to be pulling on my jacket, and I'm going to be like, listen, I need a minute here. He didn't deserve that.
Right. Right.
So you can't internalize that shit. Let it go. Be like Elsa and let it go.
Give it back to them. Give it back to them.
Put it out in the world and see what manifests.
Oh my God.
You know, and but I think one of the healthy things that you can do is not to internalize something that you want to say, but maybe give yourself some time. Because sometimes when you do that, you find a different way of saying things.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Some things, because I have tried something that has helped me. I swear to God. So sometimes I will write the longest text, and I will get it all out, and then I will quickly delete all, like select all and delete it all.
I don't delete that.
No, I delete
put it in my notes. So that I can analyze that shit later and say, okay, maybe I can change this. Like, because then I'm going to look at it. I copy and paste that shit into a note.
Oh my God, you're insane.
And then I don't
Sometimes
send
I write it. Sometimes I write it in the note to begin with, because you might accidentally think you're hitting return for a new paragraph. Yeah. Like, who writes paragraphs in text messages? So it's a two-part suggestion here. The two parts is, first, write it down and write down everything that you want to say just the way you want to say it, with the exclamation points and the caps and the
and the three dots and the three periods and like, and the quotation marks
and every cuss word you could think of. Like, write it all out first, and also write it somewhere that's not an sendable thing, like in an email without an addressed name in it, or in a note that's not going to go, or in a blank text without the person's name in the thing, because you don't want to accidentally send it when you're in the heat of the moment. And then let that simmer, because I feel like sometimes that gets it out. You know, like they didn't hear it, but you got it off of your chest.
You put it on paper.
You've put it on paper. It's off, like it's off your spirit. And I swear to God, I've done that several times. And then you wait a couple hours and you look at it again and you're just like, all right, Candace, you're being excessive. Like, that's mean. Like, you can't say shit like that. Like, it's just mean. And then you can save yourself, your marriage, your friendships. Like, you can do all of that by getting it off of you, off of your mind, off of your tongue, but not delivering it with a fucking hammer to the person that you want to deliver it to. And then probably 7 out of 10 times.
Yeah, you find the words. Listen, if you're a parent, have this one rule. If you're ever going to text someone or write someone a letter that's berating them because you're upset at them, you're mad at them, just stop yourself in the moment before you hit send and say, what would my child think of me if they read this?
That's a good
20
point.
years from now. And then,
even
then you would be like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't write it this way.
Yeah, so if my kid saw it, that would suck. But I think on the other hand, in a more relevant right now, how would you react if you got that? Like, would you be quick to say, oh, you're right? Like, bitch, no, you're not right. Like, none of that is right. You know what I mean? And my side of the story is XYZ thing, because there's always two sides to the story. So I think that often the things that we're willing to say to people and expect people to hear and receive and like do something about, we're not willing to accept that same kind of berating, critical, shitty feedback. So this is one of those like regular old do unto others as you would want have done to you, or like, would you say that to your mother kind of thing? Like, it's just a simple communication can be super simple. Talk to people the way that you want to be spoken to, or think about how you might have seen that if it happened. Like, if you weren't on the receiving end of it, would you see it the same way? Or if you were on the receiving end of it, would you see it the same way? Could you see how that person, like, do you see how if you say turn up the AC and I say turn down the AC, we might be saying the same thing? But like, I think you're stupid in the moment for saying it that way. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I don't think that my mom is stupid. I just think that she's crazy.
No.
Like, how could you be cold? It's like 95 outside, and it's like you want this house to be like sweating.
Yeah,
like literally.
I know.
I'm like, I can't.
Well, it's just an example. It's just because there are plenty of things that fall into that category where we might be saying the exact same thing. I think often James and I are saying the exact same thing, but in a mirror image kind of way. I'm saying you should, and he's saying you shouldn't not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you feel like your explanation is super complicated because you thought about it for so long and you have the right exact words to say, if somebody doesn't say, yes, you're right, you're like, and they have their own super complicated way of responding, then you think that they're not listening and they must not understand. You know what I mean?
And then it also upsets you, right? Because you were coming, like, I feel like this is important. And he's just looking at you like, what is wrong with you?
We said this already. You said, I agree. I'm saying the same thing.
Like,
I'm like,
I
no,
said
you're
that
not.
half hour ago.
No, you're not saying the same thing that I'm saying because I said it this way. It's like it. I think it's a catch-23. Catch-23. It's a catch-22. But I also think that if we could figure out how to figure it out sooner, like so many different kinds of relationships could be saved. Your like marriage relationship, your friendships, your working relationships, like whether you're in a job or you're hiring service people, like that's why we make contracts.
Yes.
But like verbal contracts or whatever, we don't always have a contract for every single thing. And so how do you make it so that your communication is always or mostly as clear as a contract would?
But it's not necessarily just having to be as clear as a contract. It just needs to be clear, right? If I said to you, Candace, I would like for you to come in and clean the studio. I told you to just come in and clean the studio. I didn't tell you that I wanted the ceilings dusted. I wanted you to move that sofa, make sure that you go into this closet and make sure everything is organized. Furthermore, I didn't tell you how to organize it. So I'm going to come back and all my cables are going to be on the other side. And I'm like, this is not what I told you to do.
Exactly.
But was it really?
Right.
Right.
And one other thing that I'll add on that, because in terms of being a manager, right? And I refuse, I'm not even going to say it, in terms of being a manager or in getting services or just having to deal with other people like we have to all the time. I think sometimes I don't want to be the nitpicky person, or you don't want to come off as like a micromanager, but you clearly have an idea of how you want something done. And I don't think it's wrong to have an idea of how you want something done that you want done, right? I think what's unfair is to have an idea of how you want it done, but to pretend like you don't, right? Hey, clean the office, right? Is very different from I want you to clean the office, but I want to make sure that you vacuum under the rug and you take out the garbage to the dumpster and you know what I mean? Like there's certain things, there's like a threshold of things. Anything above that is great, but this is the way that I want it done, or just clean the office. And I think sometimes in an attempt to be breezy, right? You leave too much up in the air that you know is not negotiable, and then you come back surprised. I saw a meme that said, stop expecting you from other people.
Because no one's ever going to do it like
Nobody's going to do it like you're going to do it unless you tell them how to do it.
And that's another important thing, too, to realize that you can even, because I see this happen all the time. It happens a lot in corporate America. It happens a lot in relationships. And it also happens a lot in friendships. You can set expectations and tell someone exactly how you want it done, and then get mad at them for doing exactly what you told them, but they did it their way, right? Because you wanted them to do it this way. Like, you should vacuum from left to right instead of north to south.
I like the W pattern.
Right? But they got the job done, but we still get upset about the fact that they didn't do it. I think
you can also get upset that when somebody does it the way you thought they should do it, because once it's done, you realize it probably could have been done some other way, or some other way might have been better. But like, God forbid you admit that
to anyone, so I just, like, for example, when we were going through some of the, there was this training at the company that I work for. There was this training, and it was called Learning Across Generations and understanding meanings across generations. So we live in a society today in where we are seeing baby boomers start retiring, zennials, millennials, and what is
I
the new
don't. I have no
generation?
idea.
The generation X, Y, Z. So you're starting to see all these different generations start occupying the same space.
Because people have to work longer.
And so you're starting to see that certain people, like the baby boomers and maybe some of the early millennials, start to look at the younger generation as not having ambition or not having work ethic, when they don't realize that their work ethic is different, but their output could be twice as yours, right? Because they're more versed in the current versions of Word and Excel and all these other things, and they can probably get things done twice as fast, because that's the way we're moving, right? Where productivity and speed is key in certain things, or is what's being valued today. So if you see a generation XYZ working and they're on their phone, it's because probably they got their task done like 20 minutes ago while you're still working on it. And what I'm trying to say is that there's no wrong way of doing something. Just realize that some people do things differently and get the same exact result, and that is okay too. And that you need to recognize that while you're working with so many different generations within the workforce. And as the aging generation starts leaving, you're going to see the millennials will be looked at as, oh,
yeah, we're going to be the old folks soon.
We're going to be the old folks, like we're going to look at the traditional, we're going to be looked at like people looked at, like baby boomers looked at traditionalists. And it's just such a weird conception to understand. But when you start seeing certain aspects and you look around the workplace, you see that. And that's another thing too to keep in mind when you're managing a team that spans so many different generational gaps.
That's true.
That your communication is going to have to be 3 different types of communication.
I saw a meme today that said, at different points in your life, like at one point in your life, you're Ferris Bueller. Another point, you're Cameron. And then another point, you're Principal Rooney. And I was like, shit, I think I'm Principal Rooney. Like, how'd I get there so fast?
Oh.
Yeah, it's a thing. I don't have an answer. I'm still working through this, but this idea of making sure that your communication is pointed towards the right audience, and is presented in the right way so that it can be received the way you want it to be received. I think another thing, as I'm thinking through this myself, that I could stand to do is to probably make things a little more simple. Like it doesn't have to be complicated to be productive. It doesn't have to be complicated to be right. It doesn't have to be, it just doesn't have to be complicated. And maybe in overthinking things, like maybe I'm overthinking right now, but maybe in overthinking how to make something simple, you know what I mean? Like it's oxymoronic. So just say the things that you need to say without being an asshole, without being mean, but also without worrying too much about how you think they might, if I say it this way, they might feel this way. Or if I say it that way, then you're not saying anything. You know what I mean? You're spending too much time thinking about the wrong things, and time is going, productivity is going, feelings are going, like all of that stuff is happening. When maybe you just say from the onset, this is what I need. I assume it includes this. Does it or does it not? Right? Or this is how I would like you to do something. If you think that you can do it another way, or like, this is how I want something done. I have some room for negotiation for you to I don't even know if that's too much, but like sometimes that's how I feel. Sometimes that's how I feel. I need you to do this thing because I want it done this way. And this is how I would do it if I had time. If you'd like to do some more after that, great. In some other way, fantastic. But this spreadsheet, left to right, top to bottom, like that's what I need right now, because that's how I need it to understand it. Like I have this thing often, it's like I'm trying to systemize stuff in my business, but sometimes my assistant likes to handwrite stuff. So I look around and there's like handwritten notes on the bulletin boards all over the place. And I'm just like, I don't want to see this. Like, I have a document so that we can have it. Like now I have to keep track of this sticky note. I don't want to keep track of the sticky note when we have all of Google Docs. Like just put it in Google Docs And then we can print it later when we need it, and we don't have to make it up again, or we don't have to be searching for the sticky note. Mm-hmm. But for her, it's done, right? And for me, like, yeah, but it's going to be lost tomorrow.
And that's shocking to me, right? Because youngsters are really keen on, oh, let's put everything in a drive somewhere, you know?
Right,
That's interesting.
So it's not a one size fits all. It's not for everyone. So anyway, that's just where my head was this week, because I've had a couple situations where I feel like I probably knew what I wanted to say, but I left a little bit of wiggle room for one reason or another, and it came back to bite me in the ass, you know? And so as much as I want to be breezy, sometimes there's some benefit to being specific, simple and specific and clear might actually be breezy. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But anyway, let me know what your communication style is. If you ever feel like you are an over communicator, or if you, like me, feel like people never understand me, but you still don't think you have a problem. You know what I mean? What are your things that your go-to things to make sure that things go the way you want them to? Even when I say that out loud, that sounds like such an asshole thing to say. I just need it to happen the way I need it to happen, but I don't have time to do it. Like, please do it the way I would do it. Thank you. Good night.
Get it done.
So anyway, I would love to talk about this some more. If there are any master communicators out there who want to come back and give us some tips, please do that, because I would totally appreciate that. And yeah, I think there's room. You can be a talker and still learn and some communication skills, and probably listening is a big part of communicating. So, all right, let's wrap up.
All right. So, do we have a hashtag Mom So Hard tip of the week, or should we just say communicate?
Yeah, I mean, that's the tip. The tip is wrapped up in the conversation, which is to speak clearly and simply and concisely. And maybe that will save you a lot of heartache. And I think that goes for partners, friendships, children, work, professional life. Like, I'm sure Lincoln would appreciate it if I said things a lot faster. Sometimes I see him, sometimes I'm saying something, he goes, "Okay, Mom." I was like, really? At 5, you're okay momming me? Really? I'm an okay mommer? Like, just... So yeah, I think it would be good all around. Before we say goodbye, can I just admit something right now?
Go for it.
I'm hot.
You're hot.
I'm hot.
I am not turning on my AC, girl. You are crazy out your mind.
I think I just got worked up over this conversation. Yeah. So anyway, thanks for tuning in every week and all the time. Share it with all your friends. Come back next week. Love ya. Bye. This show is produced by Tom Ortiz at Digital Stream Radio. It's available for download on Podbean. Follow us at Facebook at Breezy Moms Podcast, or email us at breezymomspodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, don't stress, just breathe.